Hey guys. So I had to think about what story I was going to share with you to start this series off. And it was a difficult decision to come to. There were so many stories I could tell that would set so many different tones for the series. Now, understand that each story I relate is going to have a different tone to it. Some stories I think are funny. Some stories are odd. Some stories are tragic. Some stories, quite frankly, I'm going to have to try to tell without crying. They're so sad. The story that I chose is one of those. So sad, and for a variety of reasons. One is because it was early in my experience in this industry, and it really kind of made me face what I was going through emotionally and spiritually. It's also because of a lot of personal experiences I don't want to go into at this point. But it makes you face those things and confront that. There's no hiding from it. At least there's no hiding from it for me. Things that I have to confront, and I think that's the healthiest way to get through pain and tragedy, is to recognize it and deal with it, and not ignore it and not bury it. And I've tried all those things, and it just doesn't go away. Eventually they're going to surface. So bear with me if I have to pause momentarily to get through this story. But here we go. First story was about a young girl. She was 21 years old, finishing spring semester at college, and she was coming home to spend the summer with her mom and dad and her brother and her little sister. She was only home for a short while when whatever was going on in her life, she decided to end it all. And she cut herself. And she bled out. And so we were called to come clean it all up. Now, in high school biology, I think they tell you there's 9 pints of blood in the human body. And I gotta say, there's at least that. At least that. The human body carries a lot of blood. So it was no surprise to see a lot of blood that we were going to have to deal with. Again, I'd been around blood, and I'd seen it, smelled it, whatever. But I got to say that that was one of the first things that you had to kind of get past, was the smell of the blood. It was very pungent. For those of you that have been around it, you know what I mean. For those of you that haven't, I don't know if I can really describe it, but it's a sickening, sweet, almost metallic smell. And it's not a piercing, strong smell, but it's definitely a pungent smell. So we go into the basement, and there's that. And again, not a large hurdle for me to get past, because I was used to that smell and those sights. My job was to go into her room, her bedroom, and start there and look for any sign of any blood, anything like that. When you go into a job like that, you want to make sure that you're thorough, meticulous, methodical about cleaning up any evidence of a situation like that. The last thing that you want is for someone to come down a week later and see remnants of that situation. You don't want that. So again, you've got to be very thorough. My job, again, started out going into her bedroom and looking for any spots of blood anywhere. To do that, you have to look at everything. And I don't know if you thought about it, but your bedroom's a very personal space. very personal space. You know, you've got pictures that mean a lot to you. You've got items laying on your desk that mean a lot to you and whatever. And you go into a situation like that, you've got to look at all that stuff to make sure that you don't miss anything. So that was, you know, bang on. I was introduced to who this girl was, at least some element of that. I'll never know her, obviously, and, you know, it's very superficial in that regard, but you understand that this is a person who's leaving behind loved ones, and that just kicks it off. You realize that this is not an inanimate object that you're cleaning up. I mean, this is a person who had a life and who's leaving behind loved ones. So I started in her bedroom, and I followed the path of blood, and I went to her brother's room. She went to her brother's room, and she went to his shelf, and she picked up his baseball glove. And I know this sounds cheesy and cinematic, but she picked up his baseball glove, and she looked at the pictures of her little brother there on the shelf. I know this because of the pattern of blood that she left behind. And she set his glove that had a baseball in it, no less. She set the glove on his bed. And she went into her little sister's room. And she went into her little sister's room, and she went to her sister's shelf and her buffet. She had a dresser that her sister, you know, had makeup set at, and you know, a mirror there, and pictures, and little stuffed animals, and all kinds of knick-knack. But the thing that really struck me was in the corner there was a rocking chair, and in that rocking chair was what used to be a big white stuffed teddy bear. And all these years ago, I still remember that teddy bear, and I remember the imagery of it and the innocence of the teddy bear. And the teddy bear wasn't white anymore. She had picked up the teddy bear, and she had held it for some time, and you could tell because of the amount of blood that it had soaked up. And again, you know, just the imagery of it, the things that, you know, teddy bears represent: happiness and innocence and childhood, and she was clinging to it. In her last minutes of life, she was clinging to it, and as it was soaking up her blood. And that was tough. You know, again, bear with me because, you know, I just had a loss this last week in my personal life that brings a lot of these feelings up. That I thought were gone. But so the teddy bear thing, man, it killed me. So I got rid of everything in her sister's bedroom, and I move out, and I see you know, I moved back to the stairs where she had ultimately sat down and decided to bleed out. And she had left a picture that she had carried from one of her siblings' rooms. I don't know which one, but it was a picture of her and her sister and her brother. And she had sat down on the stairs and bled out, I'm guessing, as she looked at the picture. And that was the last thought, I hope to imagine. And who knows? You know, what she thought. But that was it. I mean, you know, we finished the job up, and, you know, we got out of there, and I remember going home that night and calling my brother and just talking to him, and he didn't know what I had just done, but I made sure that I told him I loved him. I called my mom and dad, told them the same thing. Didn't tell them about what I had just experienced, but I wanted to make sure I told them I loved them, because ultimately what I decided that day was, no matter what contributions you leave behind in life, ultimately I think what really matters is the memories that you leave behind with your loved ones. And that's who you are in this realm, in this world. More to come, right? So, anyway, first story, that was it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.